Hello, Mr. Zonker here, and this video is on finding intercepts, slope, and writing linear equations. Let's get to it. You might recall that intercepts refer to where a graph crosses the x or the y axis. To find the x-intercept, we want to plug in y equals 0 and solve for x. We can see that every x-intercept will have a y coordinate of 0 since it's not moving up or down at all. For this example, to find the x-intercept, we have the equation x plus 2y equals 6. So we can rewrite our equation x plus 2, and then we're going to plug in that 0 for y equals 6. That's going to give us x equals 2 times 0 is 0. That goes away. X equals 6, and that is our x-intercept. Now to find our y-intercept, we can see that our x-coordinate is always 0 because it's not left or right at all. It's just on the y-axis. So we could plug in x equals 0 and solve for y. So we'll take that same equation, and instead of x, we're going to plug in 0. Then we have plus 2y equals 6. That's going to give us 2y equals 6. Divide by 2, and we'll get a y-intercept of 3. We also might remember that slope is the change in y over the change in x. In other words, we can subtract the y value of 2 points, y2 minus y1, and put that over the change in x, or the subtracting of two x values, x2 minus x1. Let's take a look at an example. Find the slope of the lines passing through the points 3, negative 6, and 5, 2. I'm going to label this my x1 and my y1, and my x2 and my y2. Now it doesn't matter if we switch these around and say x2, y2, x1, y1. We just want to stay consistent when we set up our slope equation. Here we have the slope equals, I'm going to say our y2 minus y1, that's 2 minus negative 6, all over our x2 minus x1, 5 minus 3. This equation is going to simplify to 2 plus 6, because we're subtracting a negative, over 5 minus 3, giving us a final slope of 2 plus 6, which is 8, over 5 minus 3, which is 2. And then, of course, we can reduce that. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and that is the slope going between these 2 points. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for, writing the equation of a line. To write an equation of a line, it really helps if you find two things. First, the slope, then the y-intercept. After you have those two things, substitute into our slope-intercept form of an equation of a line. Y equals mx plus b. M is that slope. B is that y-intercept. Let's do a few examples. Here we've got a graph, and we want to write the equation of our line. Let's start by finding the slope. So the slope is our rise over run. If I find 2 points on the graph, like this point and this point, we can find the change in y. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be a negative 4 since the line is going down. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our rise over run, our change in y over our change in x, is negative 4/5. That's our slope. Our y-intercept is that point where it crosses the y-axis. That looks like it's at 1, 2, 3. So our y-intercept is 3. Our final equation is going to be y equals negative 4/5 x plus b, our y-intercept, plus 3. There's our equation. In this example, it looks like we have a table. We can still find the slope by finding our change in y over our change in x. It looks like y is changing by 3. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. Our x looks like it's changing by 1. Negative 2 to negative 1 to 0 to 1. We can take any of these data points and do our change in y over our change in x. In this case, that would be 3 over 1, or just 3. Now to find our y-intercept, remember our y-intercept always has an x-coordinate of 0. That means our y-intercept is going to be 2, that point 0, 2. Finally, for our equation, y equals m, or our slope, x, plus our y-intercept, in this case, 2. Beautiful. For this last example, it looks like we are given a situation. Here it says Sammy has 30 bucks and plans to save $10 a week. Let M equal the total money and W equal the number of weeks. So, to find our slope, we need to look for our rate of change. What's changing in this scenario? In this case, it looks like he's getting $10 a week. This $10 is changing every week. So our slope, or that change, is 10, in this case, dollars per week. To find our y-intercept, we want to look for what is the starting value. In this case, it tells us that Sammy has $30. That's what he starts with. Now that we have our slope and y-intercept, we can use the variables they give us to write our equation. Here we have M as the total money, so we'll say M equals our slope, which is 10, times, what are we changing by? Every week, we're growing by 10. So I'll use that variable, W, $10, $10 growing every week, plus our starting value, in this case, our y-intercept, is 30. And we're left with the equation, our total amount of money is 10 times the number of weeks plus the $30 we started with. All right, I hope this video was helpful.